The story introduces us to a man named Lee Chang-Son who wakes up in an area foreign to him. He realizes that all of his godly powers and authority have been taken away from him. Just then, a mysterious guy visits him and tells him that in 2027, he was sent to planet Arcadia. There, he became an evil god as he killed millions of other gods. However, he was successfully caught and sent to trial. Lee Chang-Son charges in to attack the man but is restrained by his divine restraining steel. Lee Chang-Son gets annoyed and asks the man about his identity. The man introduces himself as the #1 messenger of the Nether Realm, Yule. It is revealed that Lee Chang-Son had been sent to the afterlife. Yule then takes him to the one who brought him here in the afterlife. Yule explained to Lee Chang-Son that he left the course of the Book of Life and Death and ended up in Arcadia. Lee Chang-Son asked Yule about the one who brought him here. Yule explained to him that it was Thanatos, the ruler of Tartarus and Erebus, also known as the Dark King. Both of them then arrive at the place and Yule tells Lee Chang-Son to stick close to him and follow him. As they continue, Yule shows Lee Chang-Son different levels of hell, including the hell of boiling fire, hell of chilling ice, fallen stars, and the ones that get punished with labor for their light sins. As they arrive at the location and the door opens, Lee Chang-Son is looking forward to whatever is there for him. Lee Chang-Son finally faces Thanatos, who asks him if he was still alive on Earth, where he thought he would end up after dying. Lee Chang-Son never really thought about it. Thanatos informed him that it would be hell. However, he was just joking. Thanatos wanted him to guard the gods who had broken their oaths and were in contact with humans. So, he decides to send him back to his original world and to his original self. Lee Chang-Son is curious as to why Thanatos wants him to take up this job. He revealed to him that he is suited to be a hunter. He explains to Lee that the gods from the other worlds are slowly approaching the Earth. Lee Chang-Son is curious as to why the underworld is not doing anything about it. It was because they were aware of the loophole in their oath too well. Lee Chang-Son believes that Thanatos is going to use him as his hunting dog and will kill him after using him. However, Thanatos disagrees and tells him that it's a mere act of servitude. Thanatos will let him go and grant him a new life when he is done with his task. He assured him that he would give him a present for his service and it would be power. Lee Chang-Son is not too sure about it because it would be against the laws of the underworld. Thanatos assures him that the underworld will not do anything since it is called the bounty from the monarch. Now, Lee Chang-Son had no reason to refuse and was ready to serve Thanatos in exchange for power. On their way back, Yule tells Lee Chang-Son to remember that he is returning to Earth as a powerless being and he must start from the beginning. Lee Chang-Son is already aware of that and will remember it as well. Lee Chang-Son is then sent through a massive gate to the Earth. As he opens his eyes, he finds himself in the middle of the woods with a bunch of other people. He realizes that he has finally returned to Korea. Lee Chang-Son remembers that Thanatos told him that he'll open his eyes to a dungeon on Earth. The people, including Lee Chang-Son, are welcomed to the Hwari Forest. The total number of candidates was 432. All of them are given a mission to kill the monsters lurking in the forest. As the forest is divided into 5 compartments, the monsters present in those 5 compartments have different strengths. Lee Chang-Son doesn't waste any time and rushes to the first compartment to fight the monsters. As he is running, he tries to open his status window and as expected, his skills are not so good. He then checks out the powers given to him by Thanatos, including Soul Exploitation and Execution Sword. Soul Exploitation will allow him to lock a dead opponent's soul in storage and extort work by burning them with purgatory fire. The Execution Sword will execute new punishment as a proxy to the sinner who has broken their pledge. Lee Chang-Son will be able to take away a part of the sinner's authority as a reward. However, he must be careful when he uses it as he'd end up being counterattacked if he didn't use it properly. Lee Chang-Son is then attacked by a black mamba whom he kills instantly. Lee Chang-Son seems to be optimistic about his progress, and he really should be. As he goes deeper into the forest, Lee Chang-Son defeats a bunch of other monsters and raises his stats. It is revealed that hunting season Aka Pabalsag has taken an interest in him and wants to see him demonstrate his hunting skills. Lee Chang-Son is sure that he will meet Pabalsag's expectations. He then goes to the part of the forest that is filled with toxic air. As he defeats more monsters, he levels up. All the monsters then start fearing Lee Chang-Son because they've seen their kind getting killed at his hands. Lee Chang-Son is then given the title of Butcher of Black Mamba. It is revealed that the hunting season has expressed admiration for his excellent dagger skills. Lee Chang-Son is successfully able to defeat the last Black Mamba and was rewarded the Novice Poison Resistance as a result. He then opens his status window and finds that his skills and stats are gradually increasing. After that, Lee Chang-Son decides to aim for Bloody Mamba's next as he wanted to obtain the toxic fangs of a Bloody Mamba. He was then bestowed a new weapon by Tiamat. It is revealed that hunting season has suggested a bet with him in exchange for a present. If he loses, hunting season will kill him. Lee Chang-Son is all up for the challenge. After Lee Chang-Son has accepted the bet, a new quest named Proof of a Hunter has been created. Meanwhile, we're taken to the rest of the people who are still thinking about what to do about their situation. One of them, named Heseong Park, who is also a troop, urged everybody to follow his instructions. Another guy named Jeon Chungi recognized Lee Chang-Son because he was a professional gamer and belonged to a wealthy family. All the players are then informed about the elimination of all the black mambas, white worms, and blue crows at the hands of Lee Chang-Son. Meanwhile, Lee Chang-Son is told to kill the bloody mamba using an ordinary dagger within 24 hours. However, Lee Chang-Son wants a bigger reward and proposes to the hunting season that he will kill the bloody mamba in 30 minutes, so he should be rewarded accordingly. The hunting season then accepts his suggestion and Lee Chang-Son sets out to hunt the bloody mamba. While searching for the bloody mamba, Lee Chang-Son comes across a lot of other monsters and kills them to level up. After finally finding the bloody mamba, he checks his class options. He wanted to choose Berserker, but it was not an option available to him. Meanwhile, only 6 minutes are left for him to kill the bloody mamba and complete the quest. Lee Chang-Son is in trouble now. Many gods are curious about him and he doesn't have any idea how to defeat the bloody mamba. He has no option but to choose the Rune Master class option. His stats boost up as soon as he chooses that option. He doesn't have much time left now and he must move. The bloody mamba didn't waste any time and rushed in to attack Lee Chang-Son. However, he is able to evade his attack. He then cuts his hand and makes it bleed to commence his attack. He engraves a rune of the explosion on his dagger and attacks the bloody mamba with it. Meanwhile, the other players notice the explosion and are informed that Lee Chang-Son is starting the boss raid and the boss monster is Bloody Mamba. Jeon Chun-yi believed that he was going to get them killed and told Heseong to do something. Heseong told him to stay in his position for now. He explains to him that if the total heat dissipates even a little, everybody dies. Heseong is aware of Lee Chang-Son's amazing skills and believes that he might be able to defeat the Bloody Mamba. Meanwhile, Lee Chang-Son killed the Bloody Mamba just in time and saved himself from dying at the hands of the hunting season. He also had successfully captured the first compartment for completing the dungeon mission, and will be rewarded differently according to the results. After defeating the Bloody Mamba, Lee Chang-Son gets back to the other players and tells them to deal with other monsters as he has already dealt with the boss monster. The players are then informed that there will be a short break before the second wave of the monster commences. As Lee Chang-Son finds a safe place to rest, he decides to check out all the rewards he has gotten. It is revealed that on top of getting his stats leveled up, Lee Chang-Son had gained the attention of a bunch of gods who want to keep him. However, hunting season had given a strong warning to other gods that if they try to take what was hers, the wrath of the mighty dragon will follow them. Lee Chang-Son is amused. She wants Lee Chang-Son to choose his reward by opening her reward list. However, Lee Chang-Son doesn't choose any reward and hunting season is confused. The reward was transferred to increase his karma points. Lee Chang-Son wanted to keep increasing his achievement points as he believed that something good might happen as a result. Hunting season is displeased at his decision and wants him to choose a reward. He then turned to Bloody Mamba to extract his rewards from it. Meanwhile, Jeon Chun-yi decides to awaken his powers and fight the monsters. But just then, Harold, the administrator of the KR Chanel, appears before the players and introduces himself. The players are confused to see Harold and wonder why he appeared all of a sudden. Harold reveals that his higher-ups are stressing him out since the transmission rate of the KR channel has increased tremendously. Now, he must adjust the difficulty level. As the difficulty was adjusted, the safe zones were withdrawn, and the monsters' combat, offense and defense increased. The players started panicking. It is revealed that due to the increase of difficulty level, the break period had been terminated. All the monsters are now free to and ready to attack humans as well. As the second wave commenced, monsters came out and rushed to attack the players. Jeon Chun-yi gets ready to fight the monsters. Meanwhile, Lee Chang-Son retrieves Bloody Mamba's toxic fang. He is informed about the commencement of the second wave. The gods are interested in his next step and have placed a bet on how longer he will survive. Everything's good, but Lee Chang-Son's stamina is too low to fight any monster. He then comes across a flaming lizard who attacks him with its intense flame. Lee Chang-Son is able to evade its attacks and kills it instantly, considering how low its vitality was as compared to Bloody Mamba's. Lee Chang-Son then obtains the remains of its flame and swallows it. This allows him to throw flames out of his mouth. He then decides to attack more flame lizards because he needed to obtain the heat of 8 trigrams. We're taken to Lee Chang-Son's past when he used to be an evil god. His power was equivalent to that of Antair's, but since he didn't have the power to resist poisons, it was defeated. However, Chang-Son had been able to learn the secret teachings of the fallen stars. Back to the present, Jian Chungyi was able to defeat a flaming lizard on his own. He appears to not be a big fan of Lee Chang-Son. However, he is stunned to see the rankings and finds Lee Chang-Son on the top of the list. He is informed by the Divine Throne that if he uses a shortcut like Lee Chang-Son, he will be able to get to the top as well. It's been 3 days since the monster days and most of the players are extremely tired. Jian Chungjian informs everybody that he has a way for all of them to survive the monster wave. Meanwhile, Lee Chang-Son keeps defeating more monsters and eating the remains of the flames. As he is hunting monsters, he saves a girl from getting attacked by one. She seems to be powerless in front of the monsters and Lee Chang-Son asks her why she is alone. She informs Lee Chang-Son that all of her friends had died because they were left behind by a player named Jian Chungyi. The girl shows Lee Chang-Son a seal on her wrist that according to Jian Chungyi will share the power of the gods. However, Lee Chang-Son reveals to her that she had been conned since the seal is the demon's stigma. It will sell her soul away to the demon. If a person with the seal dies, their vitality and powers go to another host, which will probably be Jian Chungyi. He then decides to leave but the girl begs him to help her. She is ready to do anything for her. Lee Chang-Son decides to help her but he needs to take care of her seal first. Meanwhile, Jian Chungyi had been receiving the vitality of all the players who were dying. His friend realizes that he had been treating all of them like slaves. Jian Chungyi then reveals to everybody that they're doing a boss raid. He plans on throwing Lee Chang-Son into the gutter just like he did to him. On the other hand, Lee Chang-Son had planned on engraving the rune of enchantment on the girl so that the monsters would specifically run towards her. Then, she will be able to play mob within the horde of monsters. As they act on their plan, the girl is able to attract a bunch of monsters and Lee Chang-Son killed all of them. The girl then asks Lee Chang-Son what else she can do for him. He tells her that she must run as far as she can because the monster that is going to appear is not someone she can deal with. The girl then runs away. Just the spider of the rotting plague appears and it's time for Lee Chang-Son to use his new move. Lee Chang-Son activates his snake eyes that temporarily turn into viper eyes. He also activates the poison resistance and rushes in to attack the spider. He is able to cut off one of the spider's legs. He realizes that he must target the venom glands of the spider. He attacks the spider right next to its heart but its exterior is quite tough. The spider retaliates and starts using acid to fend off Lee Chang-Son. He realizes that he won't be able to defeat the spider like that and decides to run away. Meanwhile, Yi Chun-jian arrives at the spot where Lee Chang-Son was fighting the spider. He checks the rankings and is shocked to see Lee Chang-Son still in first place, and his points seem to be increasing drastically as well. Yi Chun-jian can't believe how an ordinary human like him can improve so fast. He is then informed that Lee Chang-Son has encountered a plague spider. Jian Chungyi then rushes to find Lee Chang-Son since he needs to kill him as soon as possible. On the other hand, Lee Chang-Son lures the spider into a trap and activates the explosion rune. The plague spider is burnt as a result. After that, a piercing rune activates and pierces the spider's tough exterior. Lee Chang-Son was successfully able to slow down the spider and weaken it as well. The weakened plague spider attempted to run away to save its life, but Lee Chang-Son had no plans on letting it go. He attacks the spider again with the piercing runes. Meanwhile, Jian Chungyi and others get to the place and witness Lee Chang-Son killing the plague spider. He plans to fight Lee Chang-Son when he loses a bit more stamina. He realizes that he will be able to exhaust Lee Chang-Son's stamina if he shoves the ordinary people in this mess. He then targets the girl who had been helping Lee Chang-Son. On the other hand, Lee Chang-Son had successfully killed the plague spider and found the venom glands of the spider. He then engulfs it and levels up. He also gained a bunch of rewards after killing the plague spider. Many gods have also showed their deep interest in Lee Chang-Son. As he is sitting down, Jian Chungyi then orders other players to attack Lee Chang-Son. However, Lee Chang-Son starts laughing as he has successfully trapped all of them without them knowing. As Jian Chungjian's minions try to attack Lee Chang-Son, he takes them out immediately. Suddenly, a quest named Trap Escape begins. After eliminating his minions, Lee Chang-Son attacks Jian Chungyi. He breaks his arm, to his surprise. Jian Chungjian realizes that Lee Chang-Son is extremely strong for his minions to handle him and he needs more power to beat him. Xiong had been observing everything from afar. He believes that all gods were using Jian Chungyi as an amusement and were focusing mainly on Lee Chang-Son from the start. Meanwhile, Jian Chungyi was unable to absorb the life force of the dead players who had formed a contract with him. Lee Chang-Son doesn't waste any more time and cuts off his arm. It is revealed that Lee Chang-Son is the one who is absorbing the vitality of the dead players, for unknown reasons. Lee Chang-Son remembers that Jian Chungyi is the person who complained to him when he was getting kicked out from his team. It was very annoying. Now, Jian Chungyi can't even get any help from the gods because they had abandoned him and were looking at him with meaningless eyes. It is revealed that Jian Chungyi had failed to complete the quest and is killed by Lee Chang-Son. After Jian Chungyi's death, all of the vitality that he had absorbed from conning the players transferred to Lee Chang-Son. The unknown god was actually testing Lee Chang-Son and revealed to him that he will be rewarded for providing entertainment to them shortly. Suddenly, all the players around him start dying and he is given an option of getting more vitality from the people around him. Heseong believes that Lee Chang-Son will be cast away if he failed to provide any more entertainment and chose no. However, he did choose no, and God was confused about his choice. Lee Chang-Son reveals that he does not trust a god who conceals his name. The god then decided to unveil his name, and he was the abyss-chasing great demon. Lee Chang-Son knew about him but pretended to not know him. Lee Chang-Son knew that it was Mephistopheles, the greatest demon out of all great demons. He prefers to not reveal him to people since he likes being alone. The god then wanted him to tell him what he desires. Howling. Hunting season started protesting as she doesn't want anyone touching someone who belongs to her. Suddenly, everyone is informed about the closing of the dungeon and are urged to brace themselves up. As the dungeon closes, the girl and other survivors open their eyes in the real world with reporters around them. Lee Chang-Son is shown to be back on Earth but in another location. After completing the quest in the dungeon, Lee Chang-Son is now supposed to be selecting his guardian star who will bring blessings and protection during their long and heroic journey. Hunting season is confident that befits Lee Chang-Son is her. Another god named World Encircling Serpent believes that she is the one who suits Lee Chang-Son the most. Meanwhile, Abyss-Chasing Great Demon awaits his response without saying anything to him. However, another goddess named Twilight Piercing Owl had shown interest in him as well. But Lee Chang-Son does not choose the blessing on any gods. His reputation and karma had increased as a result. Lee Chang-Son believes that the quest was harder than being inside the dungeon.